Welcome back to Deep Talks, where we break down complex topics in minutes. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to Deep Talks. Most people think the opposite of paradise is, hell. But what if that's wrong? What if, under just the right conditions, paradise becomes hell? Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1968. Humanity is literally shooting for the moon, but one scientist is building a completely different kind of universe right here on Earth. In a lab, inside this metal box just 9 feet square, a guy named John B. Calhoun is designing what he thinks is a perfect world. He starts it off with 4 pairs of perfectly healthy mice, the best of the best, and he gives them absolute heaven. We're talking unlimited food and water, the perfect climate, endless stuff for nesting, there are no predators, no sickness, just one single rule. You could never, ever leave.
And this is where the story completely goes off the rails. Because in this perfect place, this utopia where every single need was met and every danger was gone, something went horribly, horribly wrong.
They all died. Every last one. The entire civilization collapsed into violence, withdrawal, and then just this profound apathy. They literally chose extinction over paradise. And for the last 50 years, this one haunting question has just been hanging in the air. Was this experiment really about mice, or was it about us? To really get what happened, you have to understand the man who built the box. John B. Calhoun wasn't just some guy studying animals. He was an ecologist, and he was completely obsessed with the future of human cities. He saw this population boom happening after the war and asked a really terrifying question. What happens to us when the struggle is over? What happens when we finally get everything we think we want?
So it's a paradise, but it's also a prison. That feels significant. Oh, it's everything. That was the whole point. Calhoun wasn't just testing what happens when you have unlimited resources, he was testing what happens when you have unlimited resources in a closed system. No escape, no new frontier to explore, just more of the same, forever.
And Universe 25 wasn't even his first shot at this, not by a long shot. This was actually the culmination of 2 decades of work, which all started with this much bigger, much cruder experiment that he called Rat City.
So for this one, he fenced off a 1/4 acre of land. I mean, a massive space he figured could easily support 5,000 rats. He put in a few breeding pairs, sat back, and just waited for the population to absolutely explode.
But the explosion never came. The population shot up to about 150 and then just stopped. It flatlined, and the reason why is chilling. The mothers just started neglecting their young. Infant mortality went through the roof, and the society just stalled out. Wait, what? That doesn't add up. They had a 1/4 acre, all this room to spread out, but they jammed themselves into these tiny groups? Why on earth would they do that? Exactly, it makes no sense. They had an entire city, but they chose to live in these tiny, stressful ghettos. They actually sought out the chaos of being packed together, and this led Calhoun to his most terrifying discovery. He even came up with a name for it, the behavioral sink.
It's like a social black hole, a pathological addiction to intensity. The rats became so used to the constant presence of others that they would only eat from food hoppers that were already crowded, even when identical empty ones were just feet away. The more they were pulled into this chaos, the more they craved it, even as it was completely destroying their social fabric. It's kind of like doom scrolling, but for your entire species.
So after years of tweaking his methods, Calhoun designed his magnum opus, Universe 25. This time it was mice, and the habitat was absolutely perfect. A sleek, vertical city with what he called walk-up apartments, engineered to hold thousands. He started with just 4 pairs of the healthiest mice he could possibly find. I mean, this was designed from the ground up to be a flawless utopia. And for a while, it really seemed to be working. For the first 315 days, it was a totally functional society. The population was doubling like clockwork every 55 days. They set up territories, they raised their young, they thrived. But Calhoun gave this period a really ominous name. He called it the exploitation phase. That doesn't exactly sound like a utopia. It sounds more like a resource boom, and we all know what comes after the boom. On day 560, the population hit its peak at 2,200 mice. But here's the thing. The enclosure was built to comfortably house almost double that number. The problem wasn't a lack of physical space. It was a lack of social space. There were way more mice than there were meaningful social roles for them to fill. And that is when the behavioral sink began to drag the entire universe down with it. So
What did that breakdown actually look like? It can't just be about them being crowded, right? No, not at all. It was a total social death, just complete chaos. And out of that chaos, these new, really disturbing archetypes started to emerge.
First, he had the outcast males, the ones who lost fights for territory and just withdrew. They'd all huddle together in the center, scarred up and passive, only to suddenly erupt in these spasms of pointless violence. The females retreated to the highest nests, abandoning their young or sometimes even attacking them. Then you had these mice called the probers. They were hypersexual, hyperviolent, ignored all the social rules, and even practiced cannibalism. And then there were the strangest ones of all. So they just opted out? That's unsettling.
Completely. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. These were mice born into all that chaos who never learned the normal social behaviors. They never fought for territory, they never mated, they never competed for anything. All they did was eat, sleep, and groom themselves, just endlessly. Physically, they were perfect, but socially, they were ghosts.
And here's the most important point. The second the beautiful ones appeared, the colony was already dead. It was just a matter of time before their bodies caught up. Calhoun argued that the mice actually died 2 deaths.
Just 40 days after the population peaked, the last healthy pup was born. After day 600, reproduction just stopped. The final conception in the entire universe happened on day 920. For hundreds of days after that, the aging, childless population just withered away. The last resident died in May of 1973, and paradise was silent.
So he's saying they were already gone. Their spirits died first. Exactly. The loss of purpose, of social connection, of meaning, that was the first death. The physical extinction was just an afterthought. It was just the bodies catching up to what the spirit already knew.
And let's be really clear here, Calhoun was never just writing about mice. He opened his final haunting paper by saying, "I shall largely speak of mice, but my thoughts are on man." He wrote about the apocalypse and the death of the spirit. He genuinely believed he was sounding an alarm. The real question is, are we listening?
When all our basic needs are met, when there are no more predators at the door, when life gets comfortable, what happens to our drive? What happens to the social bonds that were forged through all that hardship? Is it possible that the struggle to survive is actually what teaches us how to live?
I mean, think about it. We live in a world now where we can get food without moving, where we interact with thousands of people online without ever truly connecting with any of them. A world where that social intensity is constant, but meaningful roles feel scarce. Do we just build a more comfortable, more sophisticated version of the exact same box? And that leaves the most chilling question of all. As we pull back from the messy complexities of the real world into our curated digital lives, isolating ourselves from conflict and from real challenges, are we just grooming ourselves? Are we slowly becoming physically comfortable, socially empty, beautiful? Thanks for listening to Deep Talks. We'll see you in the next one.